The urgency of the hour is unlike anything humanity has experienced before. For we are living in days when prophecy and reality are converging in ways that can no longer be dismissed. To understand this urgency is to recognize that history is not random, and the events unfolding in our world are not disconnected accidents. From the beginning, there has been a plan, a divine timeline, a sequence that leads all things to their appointed fulfillment. The urgency comes from the fact that we are no longer at the beginning of the story, but at the edge of its climax. We are living at the midnight hour, when the cry goes forth that the bridegroom is coming, and there is little time left to prepare. Many live as if life will go on as it always has, but the very deception of normalcy is what blinds people to the truth of the moment. You cannot look at the unraveling of the nations, the shaking of economies, the rising of lawlessness, the collapse of morality, still claim that all is well. The world is trembling because heaven is speaking. Those with ears to hear must awaken before it is too late. The urgency is not about dates alone, for dates are markers, reminders that we are approaching a line of destiny. The true urgency is about your soul, about where you stand when eternity breaks into time. Think of a man who lives his life in a house perched on a cliff. Day after day he eats, sleeps, works, and entertains himself, never looking down at the crumbling rock beneath his feet. He thinks he has time, but one day the ground will give way, and it will be too late. That is how countless souls live today, unaware of how fragile this world's become, how close we are to the fulfillment of promises spoken long ago. The signs are flashing like warning lights on the road ahead, yet many speed past them, deaf to the alarm. The urgency is not to terrify you, but to awaken you, to remind you that life is not an endless stretch of chances, but a gift measured in moments, each one precious, each one an opportunity to be ready. The prophets of old cried out to their generations, urging them to turn back before judgment fell, but their cries were often ignored until it was too late. In the same way, this generation is being warned. The days of complacency are gone, for complacency is a luxury we no longer have. The trumpet could sound at any moment, the heavens could open, and the hour that countless believers longed for could be upon us. The urgency is that when it happens, there will be no time to prepare. You will either be ready or you will not. This is why the call must go forth now, why the alarm must be sounded now. To hear it and ignore it is to gamble with eternity, and eternity is not something to gamble with. Urgency is also mercy. The fact that the warning is given means that the door of grace is still open. God does not have to warn, He could simply act. But the very reason we hear these words, the very reason the dates and seasons stir our hearts, is because He is giving time to prepare. Do not mistake His patience for indifference. It is His love that stretches out the moments, calling to every soul, wake up, return, be ready. There is no greater urgency than this. If the world shakes, let it shake, for its shaking is a sign. If the nations rage, let them rage, for their rage is a prophecy. What matters is not the storm around you, but the anchor within you. The urgency of the hour is calling you to secure your place, to make your decision, to be found watching and ready when the moment comes. The signs we cannot ignore are surrounding us, pressing in on every side, speaking louder than the voices of politics, louder than the noise of entertainment, louder than the distractions that fill our days. These signs are not coincidences, they are convergences. The prophets wrote of a time when the earth would groan, when nations would be in turmoil, when love would grow cold, and when the knowledge of the word would cover the earth, even as darkness increased. Look around you, and you will see that these are not distant possibilities, but present realities. Wars are not just threats, they are raging across the globe. Economies are not stable, they are trembling on the edge of collapse. The earth itself is quaking, storms and fires rise with intensity, and creation cries out as though it knows that something greater is about to unfold. These are not random events, they are signposts pointing to the nearness of a divine appointment, a trumpet that is soon to sound. Throughout Scripture, God gave signs before the great turning points of history. Before the flood, there was Noah's ark rising as a testimony of warning and salvation. Before Israel was delivered from Egypt, there were plagues that shook the might of Pharaoh's kingdom. Before the coming of the Messiah, there were voices crying out in the wilderness, preparing the way of the Lord. In every age, God spoke through signs, and those who had ears to hear recognized them, while those who hardened their hearts perished in ignorance. Now, we live in the age where signs are not isolated, but converging. Jerusalem stands again as the capital of Israel after centuries of exile, fulfilling prophecy spoken thousands of years ago. Technology has created a world where the vision of the book of Revelation, where no man can buy or sell without a mark, is no longer science fiction, but practical possibility. Morality has not just declined, but has inverted, calling good evil and evil good, just as the prophets declared would happen in the last days. It is easy to brush these things aside, to say that every generation has thought it was the end. But no generation before has witnessed all the signs aligning as we do now. No generation before has seen Israel restored to her land, global systems of control within reach, and the gospel proclaimed to the ends of the earth through satellites, the internet, technology that beams the word into nations once closed. We are not living in ordinary times. We are living in prophetic times when the pages of ancient scripture and the headlines of today are speaking the same language. Here is what makes the signs so powerful. They are both warnings and promises. For those who reject, they are warnings of judgment. For those who believe, they are promises of deliverance. The wars remind us that peace is coming, not through man, but through the Prince of Peace. The shakings of the earth remind us that a kingdom unshakable is near. The darkness reminds us that the light will soon break forth in glory. These signs are not given to paralyze us with fear, but to awaken us with hope. They are heaven's way of shouting that the time is short, that we must put aside the trivial pursuits of this world and fix our eyes on what truly matters. And so we cannot ignore them. To dismiss them is to live in denial of reality, to silence the very voice of God etched into the events of our day. Every earthquake, every war, every rebellion against the order of creation is a trumpet blast reminding us that the King is at the door. The signs are not meant to push us away, but to draw us closer, to remind us that this world is not our home, that our redemption is near. If you open your eyes and see clearly, you will realize that the signs are not against you. They are for you, calling you to readiness, urging you to hope, guiding you toward the moment when faith will become sight. The call to readiness is not about dates and predictions. It is about the condition of your soul when eternity breaks into your reality. Readiness is not something you achieve in a moment of panic when the trumpet sounds. It is something you cultivate now while there is still time. The truth is, every heartbeat is a borrowed gift, every breath a reminder that tomorrow is never guaranteed. The danger of waiting until you see the sky open or until you hear the thunder of His voice is that by then it will be too late. Readiness means living in such a way that if He came today, or if your life ended tonight, you would be found standing, not ashamed, not afraid, but secure in Him. This is why the call is urgent. It is not meant to fill you with fear, but to stir you with love, to awaken you to what truly matters, to remind you that eternity is nearer than you think. Many prepare for everything else in life, but neglect the one thing that matters most. We prepare for careers, for retirement, for education, for celebrations, for weddings, for journeys. But how many prepare for the journey that begins when the trumpet sounds or when the last breath is drawn? To be unprepared for that moment is to gamble with eternity. Imagine a traveler who knows the date of departure, but spends his days distracted, never packing, never preparing, never getting his documents in order. When the time comes, he is left behind, stranded, because he wasted the moments he was given. That is the tragedy of those who hear the call, but never respond. Readiness is not about what you know in your head, it is about what you live in your heart. To be ready is to live in surrender, to walk in faith, to keep your lamp filled with oil. The parable of the 10 virgins is not a distant story, it is a mirror for us. 5 were wise because they were ready, and 5 were foolish because they assumed they had time. When the bridegroom came, the door was shut, and no amount of knocking could open it again. The oil represents intimacy, faithfulness, relationship with the one who is coming. No one can give you their oil, no one else's preparation can cover for your neglect. Readiness is personal. It cannot be borrowed, and it cannot be faked. When the hour comes, the truth will be revealed. Yet readiness is not a burden. It is freedom. To be ready is to live without fear, to know that no matter what happens in the world, your destiny is secure. When economies crash, when wars rage, when storms rise, the ready soul does not collapse with the world because it is anchored in eternity. Readiness means you are no longer enslaved to the fleeting pleasures of this life, because your eyes are fixed on the glory to come. It is not about perfection, but direction, not about having no struggles, but about choosing whom you follow day after day, step after step. And the beauty of the call to readiness is that it is an invitation, not a condemnation. It is the voice of love calling you closer, telling you to cast aside the distractions, to let go of the chains, to awaken from the slumber of indifference. Every delay in your surrender is a risk you cannot afford. Every moment you postpone is a moment you gamble with forever. The call is simple, yet life-changing. Be ready. Do not wait for the perfect time, for there will never be one. Do not wait until you feel worthy, for you never will on your own. Readiness begins with a choice, a surrender, a turning of your heart. The day will come when there will be no more chances, when the door will close and eternity will open. Until then, every sunrise, every heartbeat, every warning sign is a gift of mercy to prepare you. The call has gone forth, and it reaches your ears now. Be ready, for the hour is nearer than you think. Hope in the midst of shaking is not wishful thinking or blind optimism. It is the anchor of the soul when everything else is trembling. The shaking of the world is real and undeniable. Nations are collapsing under the weight of their corruption. Economies rise and fall like fragile houses of cards. Violence fills the streets, and morality crumbles as darkness is celebrated as light. For many, these things bring only despair, fear, and anxiety. But for those who see with eyes of faith, the shaking carries another message. It is a sign that the kingdom, which cannot be shaken, is drawing near. The hope of the believer is not rooted in governments or systems, not in wealth or comfort, but in the unchanging promises of the one who has overcome the world. Every tremor in this age is a reminder that what is eternal will soon be revealed. Think of a tree in the midst of a storm. The wind howls, the ground shakes, the rain lashes its branches, but if its roots go deep, the tree does not fall. It bends, it sways, but it stands. The hope we carry is the root system that keeps us standing when the storms rage. Without it, fear takes over. and panic consumes the heart. With it, even the darkest night cannot extinguish the flame within. This hope is not vague. It is specific, unshakable, and rooted in promises that have never failed. The same God who kept Noah through the flood, who delivered Israel through the sea, who preserved Daniel in the lion's den, the same God who will preserve his children in the days to come. He has not changed, and his faithfulness has not weakened with time. Hope in the midst of shaking is also the lens that transforms how we see events. To the world, the collapse of order is the end. To the child of God, it is the sign that the old is passing away and the new is coming. To the world, the shaking is chaos. To the believer, it is birth pangs. Birth pangs are painful, but they are filled with anticipation because they mean new life is about to enter the world. The shaking is not meaningless, it is purposeful. It is God loosening our grip on what cannot last so that we can cling to what will never end. When everything familiar is removed, we are forced to anchor ourselves in the only reality that is eternal: His kingdom, His presence, His word. This hope also carries a promise of protection. The shaking may come, but it does not have the power to destroy those who are hidden in Him. Just as the blood on the doorposts preserved the children of Israel in Egypt, just as the ark preserved Noah and his family, so will the covering of His presence keep those who belong to Him. The world may fall into fear. His people are not called to fear. They are called to shine. In fact, the darker the world becomes, the brighter the light of hope appears. This is why the shaking is not something to dread, but something to endure with courage. Every tremor reminds us that we are not home yet, that something greater is coming, and that our story is not ending in despair but in glory. If you feel the shaking in your own life, losses, uncertainties, trials, do not mistake it for abandonment. It is not a sign that you are forgotten, but a sign that you are being prepared. The shaking removes the things that never truly mattered, so that your faith may rest on what can never be taken. In this, hope is not a fragile emotion, it is a weapon. It guards your mind from despair. It lifts your spirit above fear, keeps your eyes fixed on the promise that the trumpet will sound and the King will return. When that moment comes, every shaking will fade and the eternal will stand unshaken. Until then, hope is your anchor, your strength, your assurance that no matter how fierce the storm, your future is secure in Him. The division of light and darkness is becoming clearer with every passing day. It is one of the greatest signs of the times we are living in. There was a time when the line between right and wrong, truth and falsehood, was blurred in the eyes of many. But as the world moves closer to its appointed hour, that line is no longer hidden. It is sharp, it is distinct, and it demands a choice. This is not merely about politics, culture, or morality, though those things reveal it. It is about the ultimate spiritual reality that is unfolding, the separation between those who walk in the light of God and those who embrace the darkness of the world. It is the dividing line between those who belong to the kingdom that is coming and those who are enslaved to the kingdom that is fading away. Darkness is not hiding itself anymore. It parades openly. It boasts, it calls evil good and good evil. It celebrates what was once shameful and despises what was once honored. It mocks purity, it ridicules holiness, scorns the very name of God. The fact that we see these things so vividly in our day is not an accident. It is fulfillment. The Word declared that in the last days, lawlessness would increase and the love of many would grow cold. We are watching it happen in real time. Yet in the very same Word, there is another promise that in the midst of darkness, the light will shine brighter. The children of God are not called to blend into the shadows, but to stand out as lights, to reflect the glory of the one who is coming. The darker the night grows, the more radiant the stars appear. This division is not comfortable because it forces every person to choose. You cannot straddle the line between light and darkness. You cannot serve two masters, for eventually your loyalty will be tested. The days ahead will expose what is hidden. Every heart will be revealed for what it truly is. Some will cling to the world, even as it collapses. Others will cling to the Word, even as it costs them everything. But the truth is that the cost of standing in the light is nothing compared to the reward of being counted among those who belong to Him. When the trumpet sounds, there will be no confusion, no debate, no middle ground. The division will be final, and eternity will separate light from darkness forever. The division is also mercy, because it awakens us. If the world remained half dark and half light, many would drift in complacency. But when the contrast becomes undeniable, no one can claim they did not see. Every person will have to answer for the side they chose. And the truth is, silence is also a choice. To remain neutral is to side with the darkness. To compromise with sin is to turn away from the light. This is why the call is so urgent. Now is the time to decide. Will you walk in the shadows of a fading world, or will you step into the brilliance of eternal life? Yet even as the division grows, there is hope, because God has always preserved a remnant. In every generation, there were those who stood when others bowed, those who shone when others hid. Noah stood in a world consumed by wickedness. Elijah stood on Mount Carmel when the nation bowed to Baal. Daniel stood in Babylon when the law of man clashed with the law of God. They were not perfect men, but they chose the light, and because of that, they were delivered. In the same way, those who choose today to stand in the light will not stand alone. They will be upheld by the same Spirit that strengthened the faithful through the ages. The division of light and darkness is not something to fear, but something to embrace, because it clarifies who you are and where you stand. It strips away illusions and forces you to live with purpose. In a world that demands compromise, the true follower is one who shines without shame, who holds fast without wavering, who walks in the light even if it means walking against the crowd. And when the final moment comes, when the sky breaks open and the trumpet sounds, the separation will be complete. Those who chose the light will step into glory. Those who chose the darkness will be left to what they loved. The line has been drawn. The question is not whether it exists. The question is, on which side will you be found? The final invitation is the most personal part of the message, because it is not a concept or an idea. It is a call directly to your heart. It is the voice of eternity reaching into time, asking you to make the decision that will define your destiny forever. The invitation does not come from religion, from tradition, or from men. It comes from the one who formed you, who knows your name, who breathed life into your body, and who has been waiting for you to turn to Him fully. It is the invitation of love, and yet it is urgent, because love does not ignore the reality that the time is short. Every second that passes brings us closer to the moment when the trumpet will sound and the door of grace will close. When that moment comes, your choice will already have been made by the way you lived, by the way you surrendered, or did not surrender your life. The invitation is not to live in fear, but to live in freedom. Too many think of God's call as a burden, as chains, as rules that restrict. In reality, it is the opposite. It is the release of every chain, the breaking of every bondage, the freedom to finally be who you were created to be. Sin enslaves, grace sets free, fear cripples, but faith strengthens. The invitation is to leave behind the shallow promises of a dying world and to step into the unshakable promises of the kingdom. that is coming. It is the invitation to live with peace in the midst of chaos, with hope in the midst of despair, joy that the world cannot steal and death cannot destroy. But the invitation requires a response. It is not enough to hear it, to nod at it, to admire it. An invitation left unanswered is an opportunity wasted. The parable of the wedding banquet tells of those who were invited but made excuses. Too busy with business, too consumed with life, too distracted to come. In the end, they were shut out, and the invitation went to others who were ready to receive it. This is a picture of what happens when the call of God is ignored. The invitation is not indefinite. There comes a moment when the door is closed, when the chance is gone, when the opportunity is no more. This is why the invitation is urgent. It is not forever. It is now. The beauty of the invitation is that it does not matter who you are, what you have done, or how far you have wandered. The call goes out to the broken, the weary, the sinner, the doubter, the prodigal. It is not about what you can bring, but about what has already been done for you. The price was paid in full. The way was opened. The love has already been proven on the cross. All that remains is your response. To accept is to receive life. To reject is to choose death. There is no middle ground, no neutral ground, no waiting ground. To delay is to decline, because tomorrow is not promised. So hear the invitation as if it were being spoken only to you. Lay down your burdens. Release your fears. Let go of the chains of sin and shame. The one who calls you is faithful, and he will not turn you away. The world may be rushing toward its appointed end, but you are being offered a place in the unshakable kingdom, a seat at the table, crown that will never fade. Do not wait for another chance, for another sign, for another season. This is your moment. The trumpet has not yet sounded, the skies have not yet opened, and that means grace is still extended to you. The invitation has been sent, and it is knocking at the door of your heart. Open, and you will find life, hope, and eternity waiting on the other side.